Well, welcome to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for everything Star Wars. Everything Star Wars. We do news, we do conversations, we have drinking games, and we're gonna do one of those tonight. Happy Snoketoberfest to you, my good friend. How you doing, Nick?
It is the most wonderful time of the year. It is, in fact, Snoketoberfest. We're going to get to that in just a minute with our friend Kelsey Puckett. Before we do that, though, I'm doing great. I'm going to be honest. It's one of those Friday on a Thursday situations because tomorrow I get to do my second. Shut up with your stupid Phillies hat. No, we were going to not talk about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's get the resolution of the bet out of the way.
Sure. Sorry, I just interrupted you, but I was just so excited because it's Red October.
That's okay. I was just going to talk about how my second favorite thing in the world besides doing this podcast is going camping with my family, which I'm doing tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Because you don't have any Braves games to watch.
Because I don't have any. And Auburn's going to play Georgia and get their ass beat on Saturday.
Oh, my God. I am sorry. I'm not sorry, but I'm a little sorry.
But yes, for anybody who's been watching, we have had a season-long baseball bet, my Braves versus Pete's Phillies. The plan for the bet was whichever team finished the most games ahead at the end of the season. It was going to be $2 per game ahead towards a Star Wars collectible that the loser picks out for the winner. Well, along the way, we had a couple of other little side quests. We had trivia night, and then we had, what was the other one?
The Dragon Con.
The Dragon Con trivia contest. And because of that, I won $40 in credit towards my ultimate. Basically the buffer. So ultimately, it ended up that I was up $28. But it only seems fair as the loser of the bet. I'm not going to make Pete buy me a collectible when I lost the bet. So we're calling it even. I did lose. Pete gets the credit and joy of victory, but it wasn't the best year for the Braves. They fought hard. They had key injuries. And my God, the game on Monday, that first game on Monday was the best baseball game I've watched in a while. And it was so much fun.
It was
great. It wasn't meant to be. So the Braves are out, and congratulations to you, sir, on our
well, thank you very much. I'm excited about it, but I'm even more excited about our show tonight. How was that for a segue? That was super pro.
Nailed it.
We have Snoketoberfest. We have a guest for that, and we also have a guest coming up a little later on the show, Tim Havlock, who, if you ever listened to the Star Wars and Scotch podcast, he was one of the hosts there. He became a friend of mine through the shows. He's going to join us a little bit later, and we're also going to talk. There's been some articles that came out today. There was one from the Hollywood Reporter. There was one from Variety. We want to talk a little bit about those. So it's going to be an action-packed show. Couple new things that you need to know about. We're working through this whole YouTube membership thing. If you want to become a member, we would love to have you. It's 99 cents a month at the first tier. And for that, you're going to get a badge and you're going to get some emojis. We have a little Snoketoberfest emoji that we're running this month. So it's only 99 cents a month. It's cheap. That's cheap. You can also do super chats and all kinds of stuff with us now, but that's happening. We also have a couple different tiers. I'm not going to go into that. 99 cents a month. Hey, that's less than about one. I don't even know. That's like 1/18 of a 12 pack of beer. So, I mean, you could do it. So there's that. Also, you'll see if you're watching this on YouTube now, we have links to our store. You can actually link through there. And if you use the code SHILL15, you're going to get 15% off whatever you order. We have a couple things featured there, including our Snoketoberfest pint glass. But hey, there's football and baseball on tonight, and our guest is taking her valuable time away from that to join us. So why don't we bring in Kelsey, and we'll get to our sports ball thing a little bit with her, because she's part of this whole thing. So welcome, Kelsey Puckett. Kelsey, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, just excited to see you. Kelsey is, for those who don't know, she is producer of the official ESPN Star Wars podcast, Never Tell Me the Odds. She's at ESPN. She does all kinds of things there, and she's become a friend of the show. So how are you feeling about the baseball playoffs? We started that. I mean, this is becoming Star Wars and baseball tonight, but that's okay.
Well, definitely feeling better than the Braves. I don't know, my team's looking a little bit like the White Sox, my Bristol Banthas. They've been pretty bad, so it's all right.
Yeah. It's okay. So for those of you who don't know, a couple months ago, we started our first annual Star Wars Fantasy Sports Ball. And basically what we did was we had 11 different categories to choose from, and you got to draft. We went through a whole draft situation. The problem is we really weren't that, I think, clear with Kelsey. It wasn't so much who your favorite was, it was who we thought would win. And so although Kelsey's picks have been typically better, cooler picks, deeper dives, cooler characters, they haven't fared so well in the standings, but I do feel bad about that.
All right, I did get a cool cup out of it.
You did. I can't see. Go. I love that. That's how great of a team she works with in real life. So this week we had this week's was the Bounty Hunters, and guys, I really thought, I was concerned that Kelsey was going to take a bigger bet than she did by picking Embo. Again, one of the coolest looking characters in Star Wars history. One of the coolest characters. He came in at 15%. I thought for sure Boba Fett was a slam dunk. I was like, I got this week. This one's mine. But Din Djarin, Nick's pick, got 51% of the vote.
Yep. Recency bias, baby. That's all it is.
Somebody replied to my tweet saying it's because he has a Baby Yoda, and
fair.
You got to ride. You got to ride them up.
Michael Jordan won all those championships because he had a Scottie Pippen. That's the way it works.
That is a unique perspective. I like that. So let's take a quick look at the standings. We have Nick's team Gen X-Wing at 321 points. Now, so you basically every week you get the number of points and percentage of the vote win. Next year, I feel like we need to make that much clearer up front. Nick is up 321. I have 300, and Kelsey has 179. But I do want to point out in 2 weeks we have the infamous Rebel pick where Nick made. Perhaps it's Nick did the equivalent of taking your kicker on the first round of your fantasy football league in his pick for the Rebels, but we'll wait till we get to that. But this week,
and really I had two, because I also had Agent Callus the other week, and I'm not sure which one is more of a team full of kickers than Callus and Mon Mothma.
That was a choice. But this week I think it's going to be, again, much like I thought Boba Fett was a slam dunk. This week we're going with ships. And we have Kelsey has picked the Ghost, which is I was going to go with Ghost, but I picked Millennium Falcon, and Nick picked X-Wing. So guys, who do you think is going to win this week?
That's the Falcon. I mean, it's all right. I already know going into it that I'm losing. It's okay.
And there's a reason for 200 episodes of Around the Galaxy when we've done the 10 questions question. A lot of those we've told the person, what's your favorite ship, if you can't pick the Falcon, because everybody picks the Falcon.
Right. Well, I need it. I got to pick up 21 points on Nick, and but I don't know.
You've got the advantage on the tiebreaker with wins.
But again, I think there's this Twitter culture loves the unique stuff. I think the Ghost is going to come in second, and I think it's going to be closer than we think. I might even vote for the Ghost because I think that's a ship that I like more than than that. But so that's what's coming up. So look, on Monday you can vote in this week's contest or matchup. But ladies and gentlemen, it is
I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
At this point, I turn it over to Nick.
I'm going to laugh at that every time you run that for the entire month. It is Snoketoberfest. It's the most wonderful time of the year, as I have said. I love any holiday or reason to celebrate drinking, which is just most days. If you've never been part of Snoketoberfest before, welcome. You did end up in where you thought you ended up. The way Snoketoberfest works, we started this tradition years ago on Bro Axiom and some of the old Force Connect episodes. And it's a tradition we've kept alive for going on like 4 or 5 years now. So I'm thrilled to keep Snoketoberfest going. We did it last year. Actually, we stretched from Snoketoberfest to Snokevember to Darth Simber. Like, we just kept chugging beers. Yeah, there's clearly something wrong with me. So here's how it works. You're going to pour yourself a beer. So get your pint glass, however you're going to do this. It does make it easier if you can pour it without too much foam on the top. That's my goal. This is not product placement. I'm not sponsored by the cheapest beer on earth, but I'm also not afraid to drink the cheapest beer on earth. So what you're going to do is you're going to pour up your beer. You can get it going. Also, speaking of which, Snoketoberfest is not sponsored by Skywalker Ranch.
It's a cool pint.
You're going to pour up your beer. And then if you have a Snoke figure, if you have an Emperor Palpatine figure, if you have a Darth Vader figure, because it's all kind of the same thing based on what we learned in Rise of Skywalker, you're going to take your figure, you're going to sink it right down in there in your beer.
Wait, I have to take off the gold lame because I don't want to be.
Pete's got to take the gold cloak off of his.
And when you take the gold cloak off of Snoke, by the way, he looks like the aliens from Close Encounters.
That is not great. Yeah, that is not great.
Now, Kelsey, do you have a Snoke? Is there an actual Snoke in yours, or did you use a different figure?
I've got a Vader.
He's got a Darth Vader.
All right.
I honestly, I saw the action figures and saw they were wearing like little fabric cloaks, and I was like, I'm not putting that in my beer. And
I managed to find one of the ones that's actually plastic, and so it was designed clearly for this exact tradition. So we've got our figures in our beer, and then what we're going to do in just a second is Pete's going to hit I believe it's 8.5 second audio drop that is from Rise of Skywalker. You heard it right there in the intro. And the way Snoketoberfest is, you have to finish your beer before the audio ends. So, Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us for the first Snoketoberfest of the year. To everybody that's watching, I hope that you are having a fantastic start to the month. And we're going to say cheers and Snokes up. Pete, when you're ready.
I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
Got halfway through. I didn't even make it.
There we go. Snokes up, baby.
Better than you.
You did good.
Happy Snoketoberfest.
Happy Snoketoberfest.
It's dumb and it's fun and I love it.
It's sort of like this
you're
show.
A little too good at it.
Much like this show.
I mean, I left way too much, but I'll enjoy it through the rest of the show as well as multiple
there
others.
You go.
Kelsey, thank you
There's
so
no
much
judgment
for
in
Snoketoberfest.
Snoketoberfest.
No, this is true. This is true. Who are you picking in the NFL game tonight?
Gotta go with the Falcons. Gotta rep Kirk Cousins, former Michigan State player. I did want to show you guys before I leave, though. I was thinking you should have drank this beer from Connecticut.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Look
See,
at
that.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
fantastic. That artwork is amazing.
Yeah, no, we've got some awesome beer in Connecticut here. So
I'm gonna have to send you a picture of the beer that Pete found when we did Potathon back in May when I came to New Jersey. What was it? Was it called Blue Milk?
It was called Blue Milk. Yeah,
it was called Blue Milk, and it was a sour. It's the most neon nuclear blue anything I've ever put in my body. It was disturbing, but it also tasted like coconut, and it was kind of delicious.
It was like, I think the best way to describe it was when my dad came and visited. I gave him one, and at first he was like, "This is really good." And then he didn't finish it. So it's kind of like, it's like, it was good.
It started out as a good idea.
So good. Yeah. So
I'm guessing that's how this one was. It's a like thick sour. Probably about the same thing, but looks cool. Like got it from a special person. So appreciate that.
Nice.
Awesome. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
We will see you again soon. Give our best to the boys, and we'll be right back with more ATG Live.
What's up, my fellow Gen X Star Wars fam? My name is Chris Rhines from Broaxium. You may know me from ATG's Force Connect that I co-hosted with Pete and Nick. Now, I'm the owner and operator of Broaxium Outpost, an online shop for all your action figure and collectibles needs like Star Wars Black Series, G.I. Joe Classified, Star Wars Vintage Collection, Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series and Vintage Collection, Transformers Studio Series, Star Wars action figures, Masters of the Universe, and much, much more, including Star Wars action. All right, I have a lot of Star Wars stuff. I'm just saying. Stop by and check out the store at www.broaxiumoutpost.com. Sign up to become a part of the Bounty Hunters Guild and stay updated on new pre-orders, sales, and exclusive Broaxium content. Find something you like? Use the promo code ATG5 for 5% off your first order. We have Star Wars figures, by the way.
Well, welcome back to ATG Live, your home for all things Star Wars. It's a Thursday night. It's Snoketober. I'm still ashamed. My goal by the end of every week I want to improve just a little bit. I want to get a little bit better, a little bit better.
It's training, baby. It's all training.
It is. I've lost all my skills from college. Who says that whatever you learn in college, you never forget? I think that's a load of garbage. We are going to switch things up just a little bit tonight. We're going to do our news segment after our guest, because our guest has been very kind enough to give us some time tonight. So without further ado, let's bring in Tim Havlock. Tim, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I haven't seen you since I was on Star Wars and Scotch, like in the 1940s, I think it was. It was a long time ago.
It was a little bit, yeah.
How have you been?
Good, busy, very busy.
Yeah,
it's been a crazy couple of months. So. How are you guys?
Good, man.
Living the dream.
Excellent. Well, happy Snoketoberfest to you.
Yes, we're glad you could join us on this year's very first Snoketoberfest of the year. So, Tim, I'm gonna just ask you to do a quick intro, but I do want to say I know people may know you from Star Wars and Scotch. They may know you from your Twitch feed or some of the other things you do. So, give us a quick little intro for those who don't know.
Hi, my name is Tim Havlock, also known as Darkness429. I've been an online video game live streamer, content creator for 10 years now. I've been in the online space for a bit, creating content, playing video games, just being a goofball. Did a Star Wars podcast with my buddy Kevin for 200 episodes. We did Star Wars and Scotch together. We took a little hiatus. Right now we're on a little hiatus. But yeah, that's been my introduction to the Star Wars universe on the content creation side was through our podcast.
Yeah, it's 10 years of. So you've been a Twitch streamer for.
Yeah, so I started streaming Twitch in it was actually Justin TV. I was in college at the time, so this is probably 2011 2012. It was still Justin TV, and I started streaming in between classes in college, which was kind of fun. I was playing Battlefield 3 at the time, and then life took over. Graduated, moved. And long story short, started streaming again because I thought it was fun, and I was lonely. It was just my wife and I, and she was working a full-time job being a mechanical engineer, and I was going to school to finish up some prereqs to be a physician's assistant. And streaming was kind of there when I needed it the most. Yeah. And so Titanfall came out, and I started streaming Titanfall just for fun. And then it quickly went from fun to being really fun, and saying that I could quit my part-time job, and then I had to make the decision of, do I keep going to school or do I play video games full-time? So it was no longer just a fun thing that I did on the side. It was like, wow, this is serious. Like, this could actually be a real full-time thing. So made the decision and never turned back.
It's wild to me that there's this whole culture, and it's probably because obviously if you were in school at that time, you're obviously younger than us. But I watch my son watch video game streams all the time. And this is I'm going to sound like I had to walk uphill in the snow both ways when I was a kid kind of guy. But like, to me, that sort of connection, like watching games, I'm starting to do it more. Like, I've watched Lloyd, who does some of the production on our show. Yeah. But like, talk to me about that culture, like that whole kind of people, because I here's the weird thing, and this is the truth, and this is how big you've gotten, and it's been like, you've had like a pretty wild trajectory over the last 18 months or so, right? I've seen you kind of explode there on Twitch. I told my son Jack, I was like, oh yeah, this guy, I was on his Star Wars podcast, and he's on his Darkness. He's like, oh yeah, he does. He was doing Call of Duty. It wasn't Call of Duty. Which was it? It was, I don't know. It was one of the games that he plays, and he knew who you were. And I was like, now I'm cool because I know Tim. But talk about that culture. Like, that's like it's a completely different thing for people to watch.
Yeah, when I first started streaming, it was kind of like YouTube Live. It was like the thought of like, oh, it's a YouTube video, but it has a chat, and you're doing it live. I was like, oh, it's cool, it's neat. And I think it was still kind of like, it was, for a lack of the better word, it was kind of like a redheaded stepchild of like the content creation scene. Like, it was just kind of like, frowned upon as like, like, oh, you're not real content creators. You guys are just like you guys aren't YouTubers. Like, you don't put in the work. You just go live and you sit there in front of a camera and you play video games. Like, there's no structure to what you do. Like, there's no validity. And so like there was a point in time where like, yeah, there was like no one was really going to Twitch except like the hardcore like niche guys. And I want to say it wasn't until probably like the Fortnite time is when it really became like accepted, and not really even accepted, but it became more mainstream and people were recognizing it as an actual thing. And then once we get into the pandemic and everyone kind of gets put into lockdown, that's when it really opens up and everyone starts to recognize it as like, oh, this is a real thing. But the thought of being able to connect with people at like all different ages, within all different types of just like walks of life, and it's crazy to think like you can be like the connection point between like a son and like it's weird because like everyone makes a joke. Like I had a really bad email from someone when I stopped playing Fortnite, and they're like, I can't believe you stopped playing Fortnite. I can't connect with my kid anymore. I dare you. But honestly though, like you can be that connecting point of where like people can see like a dad can watch what you're doing and start to understand like what his kid's into, and you as like a connecting point, which is really neat. Or even just facilitating a community where people can come together and make those connections, and you are that like that intermediary between those people, and they may have never even met each other before, but because of your live stream, you created a community that allowed them to meet. And I know that I have people in my community that got married because they met each other in my community. Wow. It's just nuts. Yeah, it's really cool. So I never thought I'd have the ability to like inspire people to do things like go on a weight loss journey or get married because they made friends because they were playing video games one night. You know, it's just like I never thought I was going to ever have that opportunity. But being a live streamer, being a community leader, I made that possible, which was really cool.
It's really fascinating. And I wanted to tag onto that just a little bit, like what you're saying, Pete, and even what you're saying, Tim, is I'm just a couple years younger than Pete. So I also fall into that like old guy, you know, I'm looking across the room at my NES that's looking at me going, you're talking to a guy that plays video games on the internet. And I'm over here with all 8 bits I have. And so, I mean, but this is the thing, as a guy in his mid to late 40s, I play Fortnite almost every night when my kids go to bed because it's dumb, mindless fun. And it's the kind of stuff that I did playing GoldenEye in college. It's the kind of stuff that I did. Like, it's not complicated. I'm terrible at Halo. I can't begin to play like Call of Duty or any of that. It's so fast. And there's so many things going on. I'm like, I'm too old for this. And it's that weird in between. But I've also seen some of the streams. And like Pete said, our friend Lloyd, our producer, he plays a lot of Call of Duty. And so I'll tune in when he's playing. And part of it is I can just kind of zone out and watch it, but I can have a conversation with him in the chat. We've got some friends who did some Star Wars stuff, David and Tim, father, son, or as father and son, and they would do it. They got on and the dad played The Last of Us while his son, who had played it twice, was just there for the journey. It creates this interesting dynamic where you can have a conversation and you're playing a video game, so the pressure's off. Like the distraction is the video game. So it's almost like the interactions are more natural and more genuine, as opposed to right now, we've brought you on to interview you and talk to you. But if the three of us were playing Fortnite and laughing, but also asking serious questions, your attention is pulled. And I feel like the responses are more genuine. And hearing you talk about that with the people that watch, does that kind of track? Does that make sense that like you've created this ability almost to have more vulnerability and openness because there's a third thing that's distracting from, oh my God, I'm being vulnerable right now?
I think that kind of comes with time and honing your craft and understanding like who you are as an entertainer, because you can always have that mask. For the longest time, I always wanted to like separate who like Tim and Darkness 429 were. I never wanted them to be the same person. So like my level of vulnerability, if you will, of like what I was willing to express to people and what I was willing to share with them was very different versus how I am now. I'm a much different person. I have a son, like he's 5 years old. And so I see myself as a much softer person than I was 5 years ago. The way that I look at life and the way that like I see my experiences versus how I would have said them like 8 years ago, completely different. And so like, yeah, I think like streaming can be that depending on the entertainer that you're watching. You know, you could have a lot of there's 3 different types of streamers. I think you can really categorize them into three different slots. You have your highly competitive entertainer. You have your very, very competitive. They focus on playing the game. They focus on playing it well, but they won't read their chat. They won't pay attention to what's going on, but they're really damn good at what they do. And then like maybe every once in a while they'll thank for donos and things like that. And then you have the person who's highly engaged, who's extremely funny, who can just make just owns the room, but's terrible at video games. And then you have the in between. You have the person who can be like semi-competitive, but isn't like able to make it a pro. And then you have the person who can be like, they can own the room and they can drive a conversation, but they might not be the funniest person in the room. Like, I think honestly, that's the most dangerous streamer. That's the person who can go the furthest in their career, is because they're able to balance both of those things out.
And that's interesting to hear you say, because I have picked up, and part of it is because it shows up on my TikTok feed. Like, I have kids and they watch lots of YouTube. And so they knew, of course they know all the, the Mr. Beasts or the whoever, and that's not video games. But at some point, and I think this falls into the first category, the person you're talking about, at some point on my TikTok feed, Ninja showed up.
Yeah.
And he's the guy that's hardcore about it, and he gets mad and he plays. And every now and then it's, thanks for the super chat, thanks for the membership, thanks for whatever. And so I'll scroll past that. But on Fridays, he plays with his brother.
Yeah.
Entirely more enjoyable, because there's a different dynamic there. And his brother brings the humor and the human. He's got that more performer aspect to it. In fact, his brother's kind of like Jason Kelsey in a lot of ways. Like, there's a similar like dynamic.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of that, there's another one that showed up in my TikTok feed, Liz, headshot chick. And she's very personable. She talks to everybody, and she's good at the game. And these are all Fortnite people, but still, like, there's I see exactly what you're saying as far as, finding your niche. And I think that's the key to anything that any of us do online. Yeah. Finding who you are and what you do, and being genuine about how you do it. Because we could do clickbait all day long and probably have 1 million more subscribers than we have now, but that's not who we are. We want to have fun. We want to love the things we love and be realistic about it.
I think that's always the biggest thing. Like, I think that I look for with content creators, and even just like as myself, is the authenticity, and being authentic to your audience, I think is really important. It might, and I don't think a lot of people see that way. I think like there are people that see it that way, but it's also something that's kind of just like overlooked. Because it isn't what drives the money.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that a number of the sort of clickbait artists, I can't imagine that they're full-time clickbait artists. Like, they can't honestly believe all the.
It's gonna be exhausting.
How can you be angry that much all the time?
I don't know.
Oh, just take a nap.
But I think authenticity. Honestly, that's what drove me to Star Wars and Scotch, because you guys just had, I think so. And I think, first of all, I liked it because Scotch, very important part of the show.
It worked out so well during the pandemic. Like, it was a great name during the pandemic, because it's all we drank. And then the world opened up, and we were doing it in the morning.
It's harder to do that in the morning.
Hard to drink in the morning.
But so how did you go from game streaming to Star Wars, and how did you get together with Kevin?
Yeah. So Star Wars has always been kind of a thing that I've just always enjoyed. I've always loved it. I've, from watching the original trilogy in the incorrect order, on the original VHS to, Knights of the Republic, and playing through that, and Jedi Academy, and starting to read through the books and then the shows, and then getting to be involved with like Battlefront, getting to actually like go to Stockholm and be involved with the development of those games and stuff. That was really cool, really neat. So like Star Wars has always been a part of my life. And I met Kevin through a mutual friend of ours, King Ithalian at the time, and then we went into business together. So we were kind of just like shooting the breeze one day, and we started talking about The Mandalorian, and we're like, oh, it was really neat that we at the time we had just done like a Star Wars style like show at our event at the time it was called Guardian Con. We had changed the name to GCX. We did a little like Star Wars panel because we had a friend that was from Wikipedia at the time. He was, one of the Star Wars news or like news outlets, and he came on and we just talked for an hour, and it was like we packed the room, and people were just like nonstop questions for the whole hour, and it was great. And we're like, let's try this, let's see what happens. And so we just thought it'd be fun just to kind of talk about The Mandalorian, and we're like, oh, we're really into shows. Okay, so shows is our thing. Well, what's going to happen when Star Wars shows aren't running? Let's try doing The Witcher. Oh yeah, that'll be great. Let's watch The Witcher and we'll talk about it. We'll come to find out Kevin and I don't know anything about The Witcher. We don't care. like I played the games. Like, yeah, that was fun, but I don't know anything about it. I knew a lot about Star Wars.
Right.
And so we're like, let's just keep talking about Star Wars, even when there isn't stuff like we know plenty of things about Star Wars. Let's just keep talking about Star Wars. And so like that was our thing, is like when shows weren't on, we talk about comics and books. And that was great because the High Republic was starting to come out. I started to pump out things, and it was a good cadence of content was starting to roll out. So that's kind of in a nutshell how that all kind of came to be.
Yeah, and again, the show. So you're on hiatus right now, but all the episodes are still out there. Go listen to them. I mean, it's like if you look, there's a weird thing to say to a guest, but I'm going to say it. If you like the way Nick and I kind of go back and forth, you're going to love the way Tim and Kevin go back.
I've always told people the way that I talk to people like online, the way that I am online, I just try to think like that's how I am in person. And so like that's like any conversation is like, this is how I talk to you at a bar. Like this is how it would be if we were just having a drink.
Well, and that's kind of like the way we've always sort of tried to build the Around the Galaxy shows, like that moment when Star Wars fans meet. Like I think that's kind of and I think Star Wars has such a great sort of connectivity, and when you find out something, when you see somebody wearing a Star Wars shirt, or they're bumper sticker on their car or whatever, like there's an instant connection. And but the chat, we talked about this a little bit a second ago, like there's so much content out there, there's so much happening. How are you feeling about the content that how are you feeling about sort of the state of Star Wars right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the state of Star Wars is kind of a reason why we took the hiatus that we did. Coming off the heels of Acolyte, it was just really rough. And it was kind of like, what's the point of doing something that we're just doing for fun? It's not like we're making any like money off of this. Like we have full-time jobs. Like I content create full-time. Kevin is, doing our business stuff. And then I'm also helping out with GCX and everything else on top of it, where we got our merch company here. And so there's a lot, long story short, very busy. And so, what's the point of, like, I got to the point with some of our posts that would pop off on TikTok, I wouldn't look at the comments because I was absolutely afraid of what people were, and like, not afraid of, just like, I didn't want to just dig through it. Yeah. I didn't want to be bothered with what I knew was going to be in there, which is going to be a bunch of people saying that, like, oh, you guys are woke, or I can't believe, like, you're the problem. You're the reason why Star Wars is the way that it is, or like anything else that in between, where it's like, man, you took a 15-second clip to completely come out of context and you warped it into a version of reality that fits your narrative. Yep. And so it's just, that was exhausting. And even like playing, like, hell, even playing the latest Star Wars game, playing Star Wars Outlaw was fun for me as a Star Wars fan, because I appreciated all the work that went into it, but it was exhausting to create content around, because no matter what, it was wrong. And it's just like, I got to a point where I was like, I just want to be a closet Star Wars fan now. It's like, I don't want to openly talk about it, on the internet, other than like on stream. But why do I want to make content around it when I'm just going to get beat up? Right. So that's kind of like where I'm at right now with the Star Wars fandom as a whole. It's like, I love it. I love everything about Star Wars, but it's kind of like, it's just something that I've kind of reserved for myself right now, because I really loved Acolyte and I hate that I got beat up for it. Because it's not that I think that it was perfect. There was definitely there are many episodes where I sat down and reviewed it and I'm like, that was bad. It could have been better. They should have done this. But I always hit it with but I like this. There was something about every episode where I was like, no, I see where they're going. Or let Dave cook. Let's see where he's going with this. Oh, we're finally going to get a piece of content we've been begging for years. And what are you going to do? No, you're just going to poop on it. Like, come on, guys. We got Plagius. And instead of being happy about the direction of something, we just wanted to burn it to the ground.
Just to be mad.
Just to be upset because it didn't fit my Star Wars. It's just like, it's like you get upset about, fire and space, and it's like, where do you draw the line?
Right. They must have
and the weird thing is
in A New Hope and the Death Star.
I was going to say 1977 when there was still fire in space.
The amount of clips you can go through and see all that, but no one's going to complain about that, are they?
Not at all.
We're going to complain about a CD-ROM that came out, that has a date that isn't even canonical.
Somebody's birthday. A birthday of a fictional alien.
I want to know who spent the time to go find that.
I don't think we really want to know that.
just a part of me does. A part of me wants
voyeuristically speaking. Well, and so you bring up a good point, and we've talked about this, and it hit for us during the writer's strike when Ahsoka was out.
Yeah.
And we had made a conscious decision because we've got lots of friends who are writers who have been on the show, and we wanted to stand in solidarity with what we were doing. And we're nothing big, but we said, while they're on strike, we want to support them however we can. And we didn't cover the show.
Sure.
And so we watched the shows when they dropped, and we texted each other. And I think it was by the second episode on the same day, we texted each other at some point and went, it's really weird. Like, I'm watching this because I'm excited to watch it, not because I'm watching it thinking, how are we going to talk about this on the show tomorrow night? Yeah. And it's exactly what you said. It was a chance to reserve it for ourselves and get back to, I just like watching Star Wars. And I've tried to carry that forward as the strikes were resolved and as we've gotten new stuff to go, yeah, we talk about it, but this is a hobby for us. Like, we also have real lives and jobs and whatever. It's not that serious. It's not that, but there's so much of that out there that I totally understand the point that you're talking about of going, yeah, we need a break. Like, it's time to just sit down for a minute.
Yeah. It's just, it was also just kind of just seeing the constant dread on social media, which is another just like whole other aspect to it, where it's just like, you see the other content creators that are just like tired of it because everyone gets wrapped up in it, even though it's like, if you really look at the percentage of it, it is and I think the article that came out from Vanity really, like, they really, was it Variety or Vanity?
Variety. Yeah.
It was Variety. The article that came out, they even talked about it. They were even saying that, like, the most negative toxic people are a percentage of a percentage of a percentage.
Correct.
Right? Like, they are the smallest, but they are the loudest.
But they're the loudest.
They're the loudest. And so they drive so much, spotlight to their messaging, and so people just and it just, as social media does, it's a wildfire, and it just picks it up, and it's just like you can't escape it. And that's the other thing too.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, from what virality and what success looks like in streaming, the problem is the people who do it well with the negativity, who are able to make that their thing. Unfortunately, their messages are bubbling up, and so the example I always give Nick is, before we went to Star Wars Celebration in California a couple of years ago, my dad, who doesn't, he's a casual Star Wars fan, and he said to me, he said, I heard they're recasting The Mandalorian. I was like, where did you hear this? He goes, some guy named Mike Zero, and I was like, oh my god. That he went on a little Star Wars search because he was going to Star Wars Celebration, and he got the garbage, and that's the challenge. That's the challenge with all of it, and that's what's exhausting.
Yeah, most definitely.
So I want to ask this, because I do want to pivot us away before we get you out of here tonight. I want to pivot us back into something fun. You are a gamer. We're Star Wars guys. You're a Star Wars guy.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about Star Wars video games for a few minutes.
Sure, totally.
The whole pantheon, the table is laid out in front of you. You're picking 3 or 4. What are the 3 or 4 that are like the Star Wars games you love? You can play them over and over again. I mean, I still play Battlefront 2. If I get tired of Fortnite, and it's 11 o'clock and all my kids are in bed, like, I'll throw some Battlefront 2 on. I'll play, Super Star Wars from, SNES still kicks my ass. Like, where are you with the pantheon of Star Wars games that are out there?
I mean, so from least to greatest, I'll give you 5.
Okay.
Nice. So I think coming in at number 5, I would put Outlaws. I think Outlaws is, if you really look at it from top to bottom, what Ubisoft made was a Star Wars Red Dead Redemption, which was really cool. It was really neat. Now, do I think it could have been more? Most definitely. But the amount of detail that was put into it, from the dialogue between just random people on the streets, to being able to play endless games of Sabacc, being able to bet on Faith Your races, like all of these things, for the normal gamer, probably didn't give a crap, right? But for the Star Wars fan, that was a love letter. I think that was a love letter to Star Wars fans, and I was very, very happy with it. I think overall they did a great job. Coming in number 4, it would be Star Wars. Jedi Survivor. I think Survivor was good, and I kept on going back and forth between, like, is Outlaws and Survivor, like, which one's better? I love Fallen Order. Fallen Order is a phenomenal, and that one's like in the top 3 for me. Like, that is just an amazing game. from start to finish. It's fantastic, and I really wish that Respawn would have just built off of what they had in the first game and kind of just kept going with it. In Survivor, they tried to do this like open world style game where it was just like, I felt like there was just a lot of nothing when I really wanted to just kind of just go through that linear story that I had in the first one. Also, they dropped the ball on the whole Zepho storyline. I don't know why they had to just do this whole marketing pivot to High Republic. It felt so forced. None of it made sense. It was just like out in left field. And all the cool High Republic stuff that we covered in the books, they don't even cover in the video game. So it's just like, what's the point of you even bringing up High Republic to just confuse people if they haven't read the books? Right. So that's the other one that was kind of weird for me. So that was 5. It was 4. For 3, I would say probably. Oh man, so because Knights of Republic is first for me. Survivor is 3, or is 2. Fallen Order is 2. What was 3? I had it ready to go, and I lost it completely. What's the one where you're Darth Vader's apprentice? Totally brain farting. Star Killer.
Force Unleashed.
Unleashed would be number 3 for me.
Yep.
So Force Unleashed was fantastic. I mean, like one of the most iconic Star Wars scenes is just pulling down a Star Destroyer.
Pulling down the destroyer.
So that's definitely like that's up there. I think in the top 3 games. And then 2 would be Fallen Order. Just a phenomenal, just Star Wars story from start to finish. It hits all of the marks. Combat. The Jedi experience of being able to use the Force, going from like nothing to something. It was a great hero progression. It covers all of the really cool planets. It makes note to just awesome things like from Clone Wars and Rebels and just like all of these just really neat things that you're like, man, I just would love to experience that in a video game. You get to do it. And then doing this Dark Souls style mechanic really fits well in the Star Wars universe. So just really love that. And then Knights of the Republic. Like I don't think anyone will ever say like that's a bad video game, no matter what year it is. I feel like in 20 years from now, like you could still go back and play Knights of the Republic, and you're gonna be like, yeah, it aged, it did not age well. It's rough, but the story is still so good. It's just an amazing Star Wars story from start to finish. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we actually get that remake.
Man, that's
so. Man, I hope we get it.
Do you have any insight on that? Because that's been sort of
absolutely not. It has been this constant back and forth of we're working on it. I don't know. The project's dead. We're working on it. Right. So all that we know is that it's happening. It is in production, but it has changed hands so many times. It has started. It has stopped. It has been reset. So it is going to be like one of those games like the High Republic game coming out, Eclipse. Eclipse is supposed to come out in 2028. Yeah. So who knows?
Unbelievable.
Who knows?
It's crazy. I think I just have to add the thing that I loved about Survivor was because I wasn't spoiled, thankfully, when Vader shows up.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing that was great about it was, my first thought was, I have to beat Vader. But no, you can't beat Vader. And that's what made it so great because it kept Vader powerful and scary and ominous. And as you said, like the way the whole story progressed, I would say Survivor. Of course, my favorite all-time Star Wars video game is X-Wing versus TIE Fighter on the PC in like 1997 or whatever it was. But
right on the heels of Wing Commander.
Yes, with Mark Hamill in Wing Commander. Well, so Tim, we didn't get into coffee, but and I know you got that going on. But tell us a little bit about where we can follow you, where we can keep up with you, and where people can continue to watch you play. What are you playing right now?
So right now it's a weird time. I'm gonna be very honest with you. It's a weird time for video gaming. If you are up on like trying to stay up with what's new and what's happening, there's not a lot. So it's been Throne in Liberty, which is a new free-to-play MMORPG. So if you're into that, that's been a lot of fun. Played Demonology today, it's spoopy season, so Halloween. It's always great to play scary games. And then Magic the Gathering. I have become a big fan of cardboard, and I play lots of Magic the Gathering now. So I've been doing a lot of that. But you can follow me over on Twitch, on YouTube, on TikTok, Instagram. It's Darkness 429 everywhere. And then I know we didn't get to talk about coffee, but I do own a coffee company. So if you're into fresh roast to order coffee, we roast over on Long Island. We roast on the island. It's called King's Coast Coffee. You can head over to kingscoastcoffee.com. We've got all different types of roast for you to check out. We just launched our fall roast, and then we'll be getting ready to go into the holidays with cocoa and all those things.
Amazing. Nice. I got to check that out.
Yeah, we most definitely. Actually, if you guys want to, after the show, send me your address. We'll get some coffee over to you.
Nice. Oh, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll get that over to you guys.
Good. Well, Tim,
thanks so much for coming out.
And
for sure.
Give my best to Kevin, and
I will.
I hope Star Wars and Scotch comes back, and I hope you love Skeleton Crew, because I feel like that's going to be
very excited. I really am excited for it. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, dude, anytime. You are welcome anytime to join us, and we'll talk more stuff. So,
all right, sounds good, guys.
Talk to you soon. We'll be back with more ATG Live. And we are back with more ATG Live. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Again, we have memberships now, 99 cents a month. You're going to get your own, you can get a little Snoke emoji, you get a little badge. Keep an eye on the chat. We'll make sure that you are taken care of in the chat. Also, if you want to buy some of our stuff, including our Snoketoberfest pint glass, we've got shirts, sweatshirts, etc. 15% off if you use the code. What? Yes.
Here's the thing. Imagine that this glass was at your house. This is basically what the Snoketoberfest pint glass looks like. It's awesome. It's got a Snoke on it. It's got a Snoke on the other side. It says, "I survived Snoketoberfest." I mean, this is like the working prototype, but you're going to get like a real completed. Awesome,
you're going to get the real thing. Yes. In fact,
like you need another glass.
Hang on, let me see if I can bring it up here on the thing, on the what do you call here? Hold on a second. Let me show you what it looks like.
The old interwebs.
The interwebs. There's this thing called
Thrilling Internet TV.
Yes. Okay, here it is. There
we're the oldest person in the room, both of our rooms respectively.
Whoops, that's not it. Don't look at me. No. Okay. There we go.
There it is.
Yes. I mean, that's the ugly sort of lineup on the screen. But yes, you can get a I Survive Snoketoberfest glass, 15% off if you use the code SHILL15.
I got to place that order for mine. Maybe I'll have it before Snoketoberfest is over. And the most meta thing I could do would be to Snoketoberfest out of a Snoketoberfest glass, right?
Yeah, like put a Snoke in a Snoketoberfest.
In between two other Snokes on the glass. I mean,
it kind of.
I feel like saying on the glass becomes weird at some point.
Yes, it does.
There was still Star Wars news this week, and I feel like maybe we should get into that for a little bit.
Absolutely. We are your source for all the Star Wars news of the week. And this week, there was a trailer that dropped for a new documentary. We lost a legendary producer. There's a new Lego set, and Star Wars Rebels is celebrating its 10th birthday. So let's get to it. Well, the trailer for the highly anticipated documentary called Music by John Williams dropped a little bit earlier this week. Just 1 month ahead of its release, the film will have a limited theatrical run in late October, followed by its Disney Plus premiere on November 1st. Produced by Lucasfilm, Amblin Documentaries, and Imagine Entertainment, 3 powerhouses. Directed by Laurent Bozereau, the documentary explores the prolific life of legendary composer John Williams, whose work has earned him 54 Oscar nominations and 5 wins. It's not a great batting average, but I'll tell you what, 5 Oscars, 54 nominations. You know, I think it's at a point where they just they nominate him and they're like, he's got enough. Music with John Williams will feature interviews with filmmakers and artists impacted by his iconic scores, including his work in major franchises like Star Wars. The documentary highlights his contribution to film and concert music, as well as his influence on popular culture. The film will officially open at the AFI Fest on October 23rd, with tickets available to the public starting later this month. Nick, we have sort of a running joke about how much we love John Williams here, but did you check out the trailer?
I teared up when I saw the trailer. There's a little bit of, the few moments in our life nowadays when online buzz happens and you see something like, oh, I need to check that out. And it's not just like garbage on fire. I had woken up and I don't really think I even knew this was coming. Like, this was a complete surprise to me. And I saw the chatter online. Oh, there's a John Williams documentary. And again, I've said too many times how much of a sucker I am for behind the scenes and documentaries and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And
I watched that trailer and I just teared up, and it was not for any one specific thing other than, people said it in the thing. It may have even been Spielberg. These are the soundtrack of my life.
Yeah.
All the things that I've watched, all the things that I've loved, things that my kids love. Home Alone is a tradition at our house. That's John Williams. Jurassic Park. Like, there's so many things. Saving Private, like, it's covered such a wide range of, his work has covered such a wide range of my life that it just made me happy. And to see, his son was on there in one of those clips. And for the people that don't know this, his son is, he's the lead singer of like a rock band that we all know. And
is he really?
Yeah, he is. But it's one of those things that it makes me happy. It's a calendar mark down date for when is this going to show up? When do I get to watch it? I'm actually hopeful that it'll be at a theater around where I live. I'm not sure that will be the case, but he's the maestro. And I will say one of the key moments in my life of being fans of things.
Wait a second. He was the lead singer of Toto?
That's it. Toto. Yes. John Williams' son is the lead singer of Toto. Yes. That's it. Yeah. Boom.
What?
Yes. John Williams' son, the lead singer of Toto. But yeah, being at Celebration in Anaheim, a couple 3 years ago, and being in that room when he came out on the stage and they had a birthday celebration for him.
Yeah.
And it was one thing that John Williams was there and Harrison Ford was there. And they, he started out, he played the theme for Kenobi, but then he was like, oh yeah, we have to play this other thing. And they play the freaking Raiders March, and Harrison Ford comes out, and my whole life just, compared, all crystallized into this one moment of, holy crap. I love John Williams. That's no secret. And our running joke is a lot of because I toast to him every third week in our toast.
So I gotta ask, we have to take let's take Star Wars and Indiana Jones off the table real quick. What is your favorite John Williams soundtrack other than our two favorite franchises?
It's a top, and I don't know if I can go full soundtrack, but I can go songs.
Okay.
It's a toss up between the Jurassic Park theme and the ET theme.
Yeah.
The bicycle theme, and then that Jurassic Park theme is bananas. Like, every time, that huge crescendo of that moment. Saving Private Ryan is probably his best, other than Star Wars and Indy, overall soundtrack, just because there's so much, weight and gravitas to what that film is. Yeah. And that's what I can't wait to see in the documentary, is how he's able to intuitively, as a musician, find that strand that ties it together. Like, that's literally what he does. There have been, as some of the newer movies came out, they've released soundtrack only versions. Like, you can watch the soundtrack only version of Last Jedi on Disney Plus, and it's phenomenal. If you flip that the other way and watch the movie without the music, it's not that great.
It's not the same, for sure. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, cool. Let's hit another story, because there's been more news this week. Earlier this week, it was announced that Robert Watts, the producer of the original Star Wars trilogy, had passed away at the age of 86. Watts was an essential figure behind the scenes of some of the most iconic films in history. He worked as the production supervisor on Star Wars in 1976 and 77, before serving as the associate producer on The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Watts later took on the role of producer for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Last Crusade. Jedi News credits, and this was interesting, that Watts, they credit Watts for suggesting that his half-brother, Jeremy Bulloch, auditioned for the role of Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back. Watts was also praised by longtime friend and production designer Robert Christian, who noted that Watts was instrumental in helping George Lucas and the team bring Star Wars to life. Watts remained active in the industry and attended the London premiere of the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny last year. His influence on film history and his warm relationships with colleagues will always be remembered. Nick, I think this is one of those situations, and one of those, I found out about his passing through our friend David Whiteley, who posted about it, because he was an active part of the story that Britain made, the galaxy that Britain made, which was a fantastic documentary, which is nearly impossible to find because it's BBC only, and I can't find it on YouTube. But I have seen it just because I'm friends with David. But it's one of those situations where Star Wars, two things, and this is going to sound a little bit morbid, but Star Wars is going to be 50 years old. The people who were behind the scenes, who brought our favorite original trilogy to life, are starting to pass. And the good news, bad news, right? And to put a positive spin on it, is we are now hearing stories about people who we may not have heard of, who without, we would not have gotten these films we absolutely love.
It's incredible. And that article and what you talked about highlighted it, but I just want to run through this very quick. I want to run through the things he worked on as a production, either producer or production manager. 2001: A Space Odyssey, Star Wars: A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Return of the Jedi, Temple of Doom, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Last Crusade, American Tail, Fievel Goes West, and the movie Alive, which, if you remember, is about the soccer team that crashes in the Andes.
Yep.
Which was a huge movie in 1993. This is a guy that hits home runs, and this is a guy that has been connected and involved with so many things. And he's the one that shows up in every documentary you watch. If it's, Empire to what's the original kind of OT documentary?
The Empire of Dreams.
Yeah, Empire of Dreams. Yeah. Like he's in there. He's wearing that purple striped shirt. I can see him right now.
Yep.
And he's that guy that is he's a cornerstone. He's a rock of what so many of these things that we love are built on. It's also funny that at some point in college, when I started really paying attention more to the documentaries and I watched this, I will be perfectly honest, I had a small moment where Robert Watts and Charlie Watts, the drummer from the Rolling Stones, somehow got wires crossed in my head that I was like, wait, is he also like, I had a moment where I didn't quite sort them out, but Robert Watts was amazing and had so much impact on so many things that, again, we're here talking about right now.
And I think that speaks to the legacy of Star Wars and Indy and all the things he was a part of, and all of those movies that we grew up with. We all want to leave a mark on this world, and you realize that these guys have done it, and we
absolutely
have to be,
did. And
we have to be thankful for what we got from them. So
yeah, another toast in the middle of the show to Robert Watts.
I will gladly do that. All right. Well, we have even more news, Nick. Lego. My favorite thing to waste money on. Lego has announced the release of the Star Wars Ultimate Collector Series Jabba's Sail Barge set. Easy for me to say. Launching on October 3rd, 2024. That's yesterday. The highly detailed set has 3,942 pieces, and it brings Jabba's notorious barge from Return of the Jedi to life. The set includes intricate features like fold-down sides, a removable top deck, and a fully detailed interior complete with Jabba's throne, a prison cell, kitchen, and armory. In addition to the design, the set comes with 11 minifigures, including iconic characters like Jabba the Hutt, Princess Leia in her prisoner outfit. There's been a little bit of controversy about that. R2-D2 and even Max Rebo. So our friend Tommy Stella will be extremely happy about that. As a bonus, Lego insiders will have early access to the set, which started yesterday. The general public can get it starting on October 6th. The set will be $500, $499. In celebration of the release, LEGO is also offering a promotional gift. Buyers will receive a Luke Skywalker lightsaber mini set with their purchase. While supplies last, fans and collectors alike are eager for this long-awaited return of Jabba's sail barge following its last appearance in LEGO form 11 years ago in 2013. Nick, I know you are not as much a LEGO guy as I am, but what are your thoughts on sets like this one?
It's very cool. And when I saw that it was announced, the first thing I thought was, ooh, this is going to be a problem for Pete. Like, it makes me happy that people who, and I get it, like you and I've talked about before, and you've done some of your Lego building streams.
Yep.
It is one of those things that it's just cool. And it's, relaxing. And I've got some friends, and it's Lego across the board. And just to go off the topic for a half a second.
Yeah.
I've got friends who are professionals, and they buy like the Lego bonsai tree, and they buy the Lego cherry blossom tree. And they're like, it was so calming and peaceful for me to sit in my office and build this and then put it on the shelf in my office. Yep. And Lego gives you that. So when you get that as a Star Wars version, that's phenomenal. And when you get things, because if you didn't crowdsource the Hasbro Pulse, Jabba sail barge, this might be your next step. Yep. It is very much one of those things that I look forward to enjoying in your collection, but it's cool. No question about it.
Yeah. It's one of the, it's funny. There's been the UCS sets I've really started to enjoy, because I find Lego in general to be very kind of relaxing, kind of therapeutic to do. Hey, KG. This size of this, so I have, as you can see behind me here, I did the Lego Interceptor earlier this year. I have the Lego UCS X-Wing. Those were 1,900 pieces. This one is 3,900.
Incredible.
So,
how many was the R2? Do you remember?
The UCS R2. Up here. I'm
that's
not
the
sure.
one. I don't have much in the way of Lego, but that's the one that I keep holding out one day that I need, because I love R2 so much.
Yeah, I can.
But I know that one was. I remember it being a complicated build.
That was 2,300 pieces. Yeah. So, and the UCS pieces are really cool, because they're there's a lot of detail, and the cool thing that Lego has been doing lately is putting like little Easter eggs in there and little things to find, so I was excited to see this, and also a little disappointed because holy cow, $500. So
very spendy.
So all right, we have one last news story tonight, and Nick, Star Wars Rebels is 10 years old. Yesterday marked the 10th anniversary of Star Wars Rebels, the animated series that first aired in 2014, captivating fans with its unique storytelling and expansion of the Star Wars universe. Set between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, Rebels followed a group of freedom fighters aboard the Ghost as they rise against the Galactic Empire. Created by Dave Filoni, the series introduced new beloved characters such as a Jedi in training Ezra Bridger, exiled Jedi Kanan Jarrus, and fan favorite Mandalorian warrior Sabine Wren. It also brought back familiar faces like Ahsoka Tano, Darth Vader, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Captain Rex, whose returns to Star Wars canon thrilled many longtime fans. Rebels received critical acclaim for its character development, deep exploration of the Force, and emotional story arcs that resonated with viewers of all ages. It also set the stage for future Star Wars content, with many characters and storylines continuing in The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and other live-action Star Wars. As fans celebrate the legacy of Rebels, its impact on the Star Wars galaxy is undeniable, and it has been a key chapter in bringing new Star Wars fans to the saga. Nick, you and I talk about this all the time. Rebels is not just a fan favorite, it's one of our favorites. The thing that I always recall about Rebels is I remember seeing this was before Disney Plus. I remember seeing the first images, and I was like, oh man, it's just some goofy kid with he had a slingshot, a laser slingshot. And my thoughts honestly were this is not going to be for me. And by the time the second episode ended, Star Wars changed. And the thing that I remember, and I'd love your thoughts on this, watching those first two episodes, and so, I don't do big series rewatches. I haven't watched it from beginning to end. I've watched, arcs and segments, But the thing that I have watched multiple times are those first 2 episodes because it feels like a Star Wars movie. The pacing, the action, the humor, it was all captured in this brand new series.
Mm-hmm. I am famously on record for saying, and the only thing that comes close to this, if it was an ATG Live drinking game, other than talking about West Wing, there it is, Matt. That one's for you.
There you go.
Other than talking about West Wing, is Star Wars Rebels wasn't for me. I wasn't the target demo. I wasn't the age group. I came to it late. Like, it had already been on. It was on Disney XD, I think it was.
Yep, I think you're right.
It was
like at 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, it was.
And
late.
I wasn't the stage of my life where, like, ooh, I'm going to watch a Star Wars cartoon, as it were.
Right.
But when I found it and I watched it, I was transformed. It changed. It didn't change my life. Let's not get crazy. But it was so good, and I was hooked so quickly that it is literally, and remains to this day, along with The Last Jedi, my favorite Disney Star Wars thing that has happened. I love that show. I think I talk about it a lot. I rewatch it pretty regularly. As a collector, talking about Lego, talking about, the helmets, I've got a couple of them behind me.
Yep.
People have lightsaber hilts, and the people that have them all across their wall and all the different things, like, that's fantastic. I said from the time it happened in the show, there was only one lightsaber hilt that I wanted to have. And it was Kanan Jarrus. It was this one right here.
Nice.
And the amount of time it took for them to put it out through Disney to be at Galaxy's Edge. Shout out to Brian and Holly Fry, who were able to source it for me, send it to me. I love Star Wars Rebels. I love that it's been around for 10 years. It still gets the love. And we still get to see. I mean, we've seen stuff about how, that little tease of Zeb that we got with our friend Carson Teva.
Yes.
In Mandalorian. Zeb's going to show back up in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, is what we've heard.
Yep.
It's such a great show. And honestly, and I think you were the first one that kind of said this in a way that I hadn't thought about. It's such a great lore story. And it's one of the cornerstones of Dave Filoni doing something that the title isn't really what it's about. It is Rebels. Yep. They are being rebellious, but there is such a great Jedi story in there with Kanan. To go back and read New Dawn, the Kanan and Hera, the very first canon Star Wars book.
Yep.
Like, tie all those bits together. It's just great. There's going to be a podcast of the Wills at some point where I deep dive just on Rebels. But I love it. And I'm so glad that that's one of our news stories this week to celebrate 10 years of that show.
Yeah. It's, and you're right. I say all the time that Empire Strikes Back is the most important Star Wars movie, because without Empire Strikes Back, you don't get the expansion of the lore, right? You don't get you get your first look at some of the details that became bigger stories, that became the prequels, that became all this other stuff. I think Rebels, in some cases, is very similar to that, in that it set up so many other types of characters, and the fact that Ahsoka was built on the back of Rebels tells you how important it was. The fact that it's the first real sort of animated to live action show.
Yes,
we all kind of know that. So if you watched Rebels, you know that Ahsoka is the final season, or the final chapter of the Rebels
third and fourth season. Well, and I want to pull up this comment from KG. She said, "I feel that I don't typically like animation nowhere near as much as live action." And that's key. And we've talked about, with Bad Batch, the last season of Clone Wars, like, the beauty of animation really is cool. They've done so much with it. The thing that I love so much and keyed in on also early on in Rebels is, and you can see the prints over my shoulder right here.
Yeah.
A lot of Rebels was built directly on Ralph McQuarrie concept art. You get those tall, long, lean stormtroopers. You get those designs in those buildings. You get, like, the pencil lines with the colored shading behind it. Like, it was different than what the Clone Wars series had been. And it brought just another visual, aspect to something that, again, we just love.
Which, by the way, a lot of people forget, Clone Wars launched 16 years ago yesterday. Yep. It was exactly, what was it, 2008. It came out on October 3rd as well. Yep. So
lots of good anniversaries.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the news tonight. We'll be back with more news next week. Nick,
Yes,
this has been a really cool show. A lot of fun. Thank you to Kelsey for joining us for our toast. I hope for her sake, Detroit moves on. And thank you to Tim. Again, Star Wars and Scotch. It was such a great show. And I one thing that I totally forgot about when I'm talking to Tim was his voice. Like, go listen to Star Wars and Scotch, and just his voice is so soothing.
Yep, at 100%.
Yeah. But Nick, who do we have coming up next week on the show?
So we've got a couple of fun things next week. Next week is Snoketoberfest week 2. As it stands right now, I've got to confirm this, but it looks like our good friend Corey, the Buttercream Dream, Corey Ryan Forrester, is going to join us for a Snoketoberfest. And our guest next week is scheduled to be our friend Tim Barnes from the Yub Nub podcast.
Very good. The Yub Nub, which was the comedy highlight of Podathon this past year. And we've had Greg Iwinski, one of the Yub Nub guys, on as a regular. He's become a good friend of the show, and Tim should be a ton of fun. Also, look for the interview that you just heard tonight with Tim Havlock in your podcast stream for Around the Galaxy. We'll be putting that in there soon, as well as your news. You can catch your news if you miss it here live on the show. Catch the news on Friday mornings. We take the news from the show and we put it in the podcast stream where you can check us out there. Nick, we have a lot coming up over the next couple of weeks. We have a lot of fun guests happening. Things are heating up as we come to the end of the year here, but Snoketoberfest, man. Snoketober every week through the rest of this month. Snokes up. Nick. Go Phillies. It's Red October, baby. And I guess that's all I got. That's all I got. Nick, may the force be with you.
Always, except for the Phillies.
Oh, man.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.